Yes, and welcome back to the next episode of Transfer Shorts from the Fresh Arsenal Show. And today we're going to be looking at Manchester City defender / midfielder, Oleksandr Zinchenko. So Zinchenko obviously worked under Mikel Areta at Manchester City, and he's a player who has been playing a lot at left back for City, but definitely has the potential to be playing in midfield as well. And we've seen that recently and in the past for his country, Ukraine. Reported fee, it's not much in terms of fees being reported, but we've gone for around the £25 million mark. He's 25 years of age now, and he's had 50 caps for his country. So how could Zinchenko fit into the Arsenal team? There's been a lot of talk about whether he'd be coming in as competition for Tierney at left back or possibly to play in midfield. So in the next few slides, we're just going to look through a few options that Zinchenko would have for coming into the team. This first one then is sort of in a replacement for Xhaka role. Very interestingly, we've seen Xhaka play sometimes from left back as well, and definitely plays in that sort of left half space role, starting to play a little bit further forward and has had limitations in his attacking play. So could Zinchenko be that sort of upgrade Arsenal are looking for in this position? Very possibly. Another interesting option is to play Zinchenko instead of Tierney. Tierney's obviously had many injury problems over the last few years, and I think Arteta has probably learnt that having a backup left back that he can't quite trust in Tavares has potentially cost them top four this season. So there may be the thought that actually having a top class left back come in Zinchenko could really help the squad. And in this role, he would probably allow Arsenal to play with 2 8s a bit more, whether that's bringing in Smith Rowe or, as I've put in this next one, perhaps Tielemans coming in as well, because there's been a lot of talk about whether Zinchenko would be an alternative to Tielemans. But I do think it's possible that they could play in the same team, as we can see on this slide. And what Zinchenko allows, with his experience in playing sort of as a defensive midfielder in some scenarios, is he can tuck in from left back and sort of help Arsenal in that build-up and free up Tielemans and Odegaard to do what they do best in the final third. So I think that would be a really interesting team to see. And Arteta's talked about before wanting to kill the opposition with 1,000 passes, and I think Arsenal clearly have work to do on their technical skill set in the squad if they are to do that. And I've just put up on the left there, average passes last season, Man City 351, Arsenal averaging 70 less per game. So adding in a duo like Zinchenko and Tielemans into the midfield and the build-up from defence would certainly help the club in getting some more passes together and ultimately then causing more opposition damage. So in the first scenario, we looked at Zinchenko at left back. So how does he compare to Tierney? Well, the first thing I would say is it's very hard to accurately compare the players. They're playing in two very different systems. Man City are a team who really dominate the ball. Arsenal, a team who aren't quite there yet on that front. And Zinchenko playing in a different way to Tierney. But what we've looked at here is the Premier League stats from last season. Also worth noting, Zinchenko predominantly played at left back for City, but did play some minutes in midfield, and I wasn't able to strip those out. So these will be warped slightly from that. But as you can see from the stats on the screen, Zinchenko is looking the superior player here. He's interestingly won around double the amount of aerial duels, which I found surprising, given that's one of Tierney's strengths for me. In terms of setting up goals, again, he's got better players around him at City than Tierney does at Arsenal, but he is double Tierney on that as well. And goal creating actions is the really interesting one. That's more than 5 times he is of Tierney. So his actions, whether that's a cross, a through ball, being fouled on the opposition half and winning a free kick, which City then scored from, he's nearly creating a goal creating action at a rate of 1 per game, which is excellent for the area he's playing for on the pitch, and a lot higher than Tierney. We talked about keeping the ball as well, and Zinchenko, clearly a very highly technical player, 89.3% pass success. He's a player who pressures a little bit more than Tierney as well, but that one's pretty close. And the only stat here on the screen that Tierney comes on top out is tackles versus dribblers. So 1v1 defending, you'd still probably rather have Tierney up against the winger. So what I've tried to do now is also compare Zinchenko to Xhaka in midfield. So I've used the small sample size for Zinchenko's appearances for Ukraine, which have almost all come in central midfield. So trying to make this a sort of fairer comparison, but again, the small sample size warning. But we can immediately see Zinchenko a more creative player than Xhaka. And as we showed a bit earlier in this video, Arteta looking for someone to play perhaps in that left 8 role and cause a bit more damage moving forward. Zinchenko looks like he has the potential to do that with more than quadruple the goal creating actions than Xhaka, and a lot more assists as well per 90. All of these stats are. The pass success rate is very similar. And if you're wondering why Zinchenko's pass success rate is different to the last slide, that's because we're looking at a different sample set. This is his Ukraine appearances in central midfield. Successful pressures. Zinchenko, not a huge pressing guy, and at 3.75. Xhaka's quite low at 3.25, and Zinchenko is above that, but not massively so. Perhaps you could say for his club, currently he's not had to do that or had to work to be particularly good at that. But these are his stats for playing for Ukraine as well, where perhaps he's been more the playmaker rather than the guy trying to win the ball back. And in terms of tackles, it's pretty close, but Xhaka is a little bit above Zinchenko. So defensively, Zinchenko is not going to be an upgrade on Xhaka, but I think in the role that Arsenal may ask him to play in, if he did join, then he would provide more moving forward. So my verdict on Zinchenko is definitely he'd be a great signing. I think the amount of money is hard to know how much Man City are going to want for him. There's not many stats out there or reports linking Arsenal with a certain figure, but look, Zinchenko's 25, a stack of experience, 50 caps for his country, won league titles at Manchester City, played in the Champions League consistently, and I think he'd really push Tierney for that starting spot, as we've seen in some of those comparative stats. But I also think having that versatility to bring him into midfield would be brilliant. Again, I wouldn't like to see this be an alternative to Tielemans, because I think we could do with both of them in the squad. Arsenal need to load this team with technical ability, and I think Zinchenko and Tielemans would do that. You could even have Tielemans playing on with the right 8 when we're resting Odegaard, and Zinchenko in the left 8. So there's definitely room for them. They can play together in the same midfield and also in different positions. Thanks for watching the latest transfer short from the Fresh Arsenal show. Please subscribe to us and like our video if you enjoyed the content. It will really help us grow and produce more content over the summer. You can also see a video we recently completed in the top right of the screen now, so take a look.